Okay, good morning. So I'm actually filming this video here Sunday night, and I'm going to post it Monday morning. So you're seeing this, good morning to you. So let's get into this 064 build. We're going to start. It's really about time that I get started on this 064 build. I've already got a muffler here from Highway. The first step here is I'm going to mill out this baffle. I'm just going to make a little wooden jig so I can clamp it in the vise of the mill and mill out this baffle. I feel like that's really the easiest way for me to do it. I could drill out these spot welds, but to me that's just too difficult to try to get in here and drill them out this way. I feel like this is too difficult to do and run the risk of poking a hole through this muffler, and I'm not that good of a welder, so I don't want to try to have to re-weld it back up. So I'm just going to mill it out. That's just the easiest way for me to do it. So why did I go with this Highway muffler? Well, the reason for that is the West Coast Saw only offers a bark box for this newer style 660 066 muffler, and they don't offer one for this older style. So you notice the difference here. The older one has a flat floor here, and this newer style actually has these little dog ears down here. This muffler will fit the 064. I'll show you that real quick. So just a little side note here, this is just a little screw. You put a little screw in the corner of your bench, you kind of get it lined up perfectly, and then this makes it really easy for you to put your mufflers on your saws. That's why the screw stays here all the time. It just makes it really easy to put the screws in your muffler instead of trying to do it on the side and trying to fiddle with getting all the gaskets and stuff lined up. You just use gravity as your friend here, and it makes it just really easy. I learned that from the chainsaw guy back in the day when I used to watch him. That was a good little tip he had way back when. That was probably like 10 years ago now. So here's the 660 muffler on here. I think that I will need one washer behind the back of this lower bolt here of this muffler. I believe that'll be what is necessary because it looks like it just sits up a little bit farther than the 064 one. And I'll just show this one here while we're right here. Here's the 064 muffler, and this one sits a little bit more flat. The other thing that's different while we're still doing this comparison is you notice, let me get a pointer, this one actually has a little raised spot here and here. This is actually a little bit raised, so that might be why it's not sitting on there perfect. It's because it's raised a little bit here, whereas over here it's perfectly flat. This whole surface, the ceiling surface here is perfectly flat, whereas this one is a little bit raised. You can see that. I'm trying to show that a little bit. I got this GoPro on my head, so it may not be the perfect angle, but this, for me, is the best way to make these kind of videos with doing it by myself. Is it gives you the best view of what I'm talking about. I can use both my hands. I'm not holding the camera, hold my phone camera out in front of me. So we're going to do 066 muffler conversion. This one was from Highway. I bought it on eBay. I think it was like $30 for this muffler. Already comes all nicely painted, nice and new and clean. I was surprised at how heavy that this cover here is. It's kind of an interesting little thing here how that they made this, but I'm not going to run it. I'm going to run the bark box. The bark box actually probably weighs about the same as this piece. This is a heavy piece here. So we're going to do a little weight reduction with removing this baffle. Probably going to stay really about the same as far as weight on this front cover. So that'll be fine. I'm really after the aesthetic look of the bark box. I feel like it makes your saws look really good. I've also ordered a bark box for the Formertech 440. That one's, it's lived long enough to deserve a bark box, so I ordered a bark box for it on this Labor Day sale. That West Coast Saw really doesn't do a lot of sales, so I jumped on this sale because I knew I was going to be doing some chainsaw builds, and I bought all the parts that I needed for this round of builds here, so I'm good and stocked up. I also bought a couple of additional muffler ports, just the ones that I didn't have. I'm actually going to use one of the ones that I believe will work the best up here on top. I don't want to trim this plastic too much here on the top, but I would like another muffler port up here once I remove this baffle, and then it'll have you know, one on the side, just like this 064 muffler right here. So I have one just like this. It's not going to be in contact with the chain brake. You can see that. Never really going to be running this saw, letting it idle really with the chain brake, because it's not an M-tronic saw. The new M-tronic saws, they like that fast idle when they're warming up while the M-tronic is calibrating. But this one is a traditional one, so I'm not concerned about, you know, letting it idle and possibly melting this plastic or the plastic up here, because it's really not going to be warming up or ever really running for any duration of time with the chain brake on for me to be concerned about that. 661, a little bit different story. Didn't fully think that through back then, but you can see that it's kind of melted this area right here. The chain brake doesn't affect the chain brake operation or its strength. Just would like to avoid melting the plastic on a saw as rare as this one. So that's a little bit of an update on the muffler. Let me quickly go over the muffler mod. So I'm going to make a dedicated muffler mod video, but I figured since we're right here, I'm just going to show you exactly how I do the muffler mod. So I don't ever run the screens. I just put this screen on here to show you kind of what I think is a little bit of a design. It's not a design flaw. It's just how in depth do you want to go with your muffler mod. So you can see with this screen underneath here that if you're running the riv nuts, this is not going to be a good seal around here. So you're going to have a slight exhaust leak back behind, you know, this muffler. I know that the previous owner of this saw did a muffler mod, and I just bolted this up because it was really close to, the hole sizes were really close. I just ground them out so that they were perfect for the riv nuts. And then I realized that I couldn't use this muffler because I wanted a bark box, and they don't make one for this. So it's just a good thing to show you here. But you can see that there's a good amount of space here behind on the sides because these riv nuts stick up a little bit here. You're never going to get a good seal. So my solution for that is, where did it go? Oh no. Bear with me for a second. I just had this little gasket I made. Where did it go? That's always how these things go. Here, underneath the cover. I knew it was right here. So what I do is I just make a little, I know this is not the exact muffler cover, but I make a little gasket here that outlines those riv nuts. So you can see that this outlines those riv nuts so that I get a good seal when I clamp this down, I bolt it down. It's going to have a good seal around this muffler port so that there's no exhaust leak around here. What this material is, this is actually for making exhaust manifold gaskets for cars, from what I understand. I bought it from O'Reilly's. This stuff's a little bit difficult to work with because there's actually a metal screen type stuff that's inside here. So you got to cut it with a really good pair of scissors or a pair of tin snips. Cut it out. It does grind okay, but it probably will give you cancer or something like that. Doing that, but only doing it a couple times. But this is how I'm doing it. I'll make the one that goes on the saw a little bit bigger so that this area is a little bit thicker. The sealing area, this was just one that I didn't end up using, but just good to show you. So that goes around these riv nuts to fill that gap so you have a nice solid sealing surface so there's no exhaust leak. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to this kind of stuff, so I just like everything that I do to be perfect, or as perfect as I can get it. I'm not a perfect person, but I try to do everything to the best of my ability. So the other advantage here of running these riv nuts is if you're someone who needs to run screens, that you can take your cover off and throw it, you know, clean your screen out. And you can do that with these riv nuts. I always put a little orange Loctite. This is supposed to be better than the blue, so I've run this orange stuff. Haven't had a problem with it. Just run a little bit of orange Loctite on these threads when I put these on. I'm never going to take them off, but it is nice if I ever moved somewhere where I need to run screens. I can just, you know, pull these covers off, throw some screens in. That came with all these West Coast covers, come with the screen, so that's, you know, a really nice thing to have. They're like perfectly cut. I think I actually have, maybe I do. But anyways, they come with a perfect, you know, cutout screen. Really, you know, nice high quality screen. I actually don't have any in here. They're probably in the bags in my other toolbox. But yeah, so the, you know, I think the West Coast saw definitely has the nicest muffler deflectors on the market. Other ones will do, but these just look the best. They're the nicest. I think that, you know, we all can agree that this is a really nice piece. And it'll make your saw look good, run good. So that's what I've chosen for that. So other build updates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this muffler mod here this week. Mill it out, make these exhaust ports, make a video showing you exactly how I do these muffler mods, just to show you what I'm doing. Not necessarily to be a tutorial, just to give you some ideas of how I'm doing it, because I feel that the way that I'm doing it is the best way that I know possible to do it. That's so maybe others might learn from that, or, you know, take a little bit from, you know, the way I'm doing it. So we're gonna do the muffler mod, then I'm going to throw a max flow cage filter. I'm actually gonna rob the one off of my Farmertech 880, throw a new filter on there, oil it up, just run the cage filter on here, and with the muffler mod, you know, retune the carburetor, and I'm gonna run it for a tank or two, make some YouTube shorts and stuff, just of it running in stock configuration with bolt-ons, because I feel that without bolt-ons, it's really not a relevant comparison of how much improvement that you've made. The saw is going to make some improvement just with the muffler mod and the air filter. Even a stock saw, if you just throw just a max flow air filter on these Stihl saws, you will see an improvement in power. It might only be 5 or 10%, but there's going to be a noticeable difference that you will see in that. And if you have a ported saw, it's going to be a major difference. The stock filter is too restrictive for a ported Stihl saw, you know, of any of the Stihl saws. That's my opinion on that. So gonna run the cage filter, gonna run the muffler mod here, run it so that I can appreciate so I can appreciate how much of an increase that I get when I do port it. And, you know, second, just to show, you know, the real difference of the port work, raising the compression, changing the timing numbers and all that. I'm still a little bit on the fence as to if I'm going to keep it a 52 millimeter and just, you know, port it as is, or if I'm going to switch over to a 660 cylinder and, you know, port it to the moon with that Y-scope piston. I'm still a little bit on the fence there. I guess it really will depend on if I can, if I decide to get this Farmertech 460 cylinder or saw and, you know, cylinder, so I can do this 460 big bore hybrid that I've been wanting to do for a while now. I feel that, I guess, the best case scenario is I do that one first so that I just get a little bit more practice porting. I mean, you have to remember here that I've only ported, I think, 5 chainsaws now, and I've gotten good results, but by no means am I an expert or someone that you should take advice from on how to do this. I'm just following, you know, the numbers that other people say works well, and I'm just trying to do the porting and everything to the best of my ability. But by no means am I an expert. I'm just really taking my time doing it and trying to do it right the first time to get the most benefit out of, you know, all the work that goes into doing this, because we all know, if we're watching this video, that porting a chainsaw by yourself is a lot of time. That's why you pay someone else so much money for them to do it. You know, you're paying for their experience and, you know, their skill for them to do it right and have yourself a good, reliable, you know, wood cutting machine. So that's a little bit about that. Like I said, ideal situation is to do the 460 hybrid build first. One, gain more confidence in, you know, kind of going a little bit more extreme. I guess if I'm going to do this one first, I'm going to probably be more conservative. But if I do the 460 one first, then I get good results out of that, then I'm going to probably go wild on this one too, because I'll have that confidence of just doing one and having it turn out good. Because I've done I've done 2 saws so far that, to me, they haven't really turned out that good, and I'll show you them. In my opinion, this 395 runs good. Husqvarna or John Surratt 2188, basically the same thing as Husqvarna, runs good, but it ain't no 500i. This saw is not as fast as the 500i. 500i's got, I guess, a higher level of porting done to it, but I think that the weight of the piston in this saw here severely limits its power potential, because the piston, I think the weight, the full rotating assembly weight of the piston rings and wrist pin is like 130 grams, which is super heavy. It's a really heavy piston in here. If I do decide to hang on to this saw, I might get a 54 millimeter cylinder and then try to put a lighter piston out of, one of the lighter window pistons out of a different saw, a different Husqvarna saw in there with the 13 millimeter pin, just to see if I can get more power out of it. But I don't know, I might sell it, because I just don't need all these big saws. I really don't cut that much big wood, and I have 2 big saws already that I will never sell, which are the 880 and the 661. The 661 needs a rebuild, so I've been running that sparingly, knowing that. But this 395 runs good. I probably could take it back apart and get more out of it, but I think this is a good, reliable work build. I'm definitely not disappointed in how it runs or anything like that. This one I am a little bit, because this one I went pretty wild. This, I would say, more on the porting, shorter blowdown. It doesn't compromise any power in the power band. It's got plenty of low end, plenty of high end. Well, to me, not enough high end. It really doesn't have enough peak power, in my opinion, but it's got plenty of low end, even for having shorter blowdown. But I really think that heavy piston is what's holding this one back. That's just my theory on that. But these 2 were the ones so far that I just didn't get the wow factor when I ran them. The 395, it's kind of in between. It's definitely way more than a stock 395. That thing was super slow in stock form. But now it's I would say it's something that you would want to take out into the woods and actually cut with, but it ain't no 500i. It ain't no ported 500i is what I'm trying to say. I would say it's definitely faster than the 661. The 395 is, but it is not faster than the 500i. The 500i will smoke this 661, I feel like, pretty much in all wood cutting situations. That 500i is just a monster. That's my favorite saw to use as of right now. Hopefully I might have some competition here with this 064, but we will see. I don't know, maybe, another good one might be this 460 big bore Farmer Tech. I'm gonna go full Farmer Tech build, piston from the Duke in it, 661 piston from the Duke in it. It's gonna be a complete budget build, and we're gonna go for high RPM, so I don't have to worry about the M-Tronic controlling the RPM. I'm gonna be able to tune the carburetor, and I'm gonna make it hot. It's not gonna be a cookie cutter or anything like that. I'm gonna keep the compression low enough so I can still cut firewood with it, but the max, or the high, or the cutting RPM, where it's making the peak power in the cut, is gonna be significantly higher than some of these other builds. I'm gonna try to I'm thinking like 97 on the exhaust roof, maybe 96. I'm not really concerned about how much torque that it's gonna have, because I'm really just trying to build the fastest firewood saw for kind of more of this medium size oak wood that I'm cutting. That's really mostly what I'm cutting, so it's going to be a little bit of an experiment there. No fingers or anything on that build, just by the piston design and that kind of stuff. First I gotta figure out if it's even going to work. That's kind of the first step, and then maybe go back in it and refine it, maybe do some do some fingers or something like that. But I don't think there's not really a lot of room, because it's going to be a 56 millimeter 660 cylinder on it, so it's not going to be something that you can really add fingers to that are going to be, I guess, deep enough to be beneficial. So just high exhaust roof, short blowdown, probably 78 on the intake, and just make that intake nice and big, but keep the duration shorter. My theory with the shorter duration but big intake is that it gets a good strong pull on the carburetor, so that the venturi that's in the carburetor, it can pull more fuel through those through the jets. That's just kind of my theory as to what will work the best. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert. These are just all just experiments. So yeah, I figured I'd just make this video, give you a little update on what's going on. So stay tuned for the muffler baffle delete and the muffler mod video, and then I'm hoping to have a cutting video of this thing this coming weekend. So alright, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching.